Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last week I've been driving the 2026 Toyota Grand Highlander Nightshade. Up front is a 2.5 liter inline 4 as well as a hybrid system, and down below is an eCVT. Now I am super excited to be making this video here today because I've spent the last week driving the Grand Highlander. However, I've spent a lot of time in different Grand Highlanders since they debuted in 2023. I actually took one on a 1,700 mile road trip last year, and so I have a lot of time in the seat of Grand Highlanders. I'm excited to share with you why this particular one is the one that I would spend my money on. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 2.5 liter hybrid under the hood. Well, this is the, quote, smaller engine option. It's actually a physically larger engine than the Hybrid Max, but the Hybrid Max gets a 2.4 liter turbo and makes more power. This makes a lot less power. However, it does get a lot better fuel economy. That's kind of my issue with the Hybrid Max system from Toyota. When they say max, they mean power and not efficiency. So if you want the most efficient Grand Highlander you can get, you have to buy the lower trim levels. That being said, this has a combined fuel economy of 34 miles to the gallon, 32 on the highway and 36 in the city. So if you're doing predominantly city driving, you're going to see numbers upwards of 36, which is better than my little Mazda 3 economy hatchback. Incredible numbers out of this system from Toyota. Now, you do lack power. When you put your foot down, not a whole lot happens. But if you want efficiency, this is 100% the way to go. Like I said, paired to it is an eCVT. I don't love how they feel. However, Toyota knows this game forward and backward, and they build really quality transmissions. So I have no worries about the eCVT. Last but not least, this is all-wheel drive. However, you can find base model Grand Highlanders in front wheel. How does it feel to drive? Fine. The Grand Highlander has never really had its own individual feeling when it comes to driving. It feels like a big RAV4, and why shouldn't it? It basically is. It's comfortable, it rides nice, it's not too noisy, not too loud. Again, I drove one of these on the highway for like 30 hours in 1 week, and I didn't mind it. My back didn't hurt when I got out. When you're on a twisty road, yes, there's a lot to be desired, but again, that's not really what this was designed to do, and so I'm more than okay with that. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. Now, I've had this complaint about many Toyotas in the past, and they are working towards a more simplified version for the future, like in the 2026 RAV4. But I do think these gauges are a little complicated, a little bit, just a lot to look at overall. However, they function well, and that's all I can want. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our selectors for that center screen, as well as our go back, volume, and voice commands. And off to the right, we have our adaptive cruise, as well as skip track. Off to the left, we have a climate control vent. We have our automatic high beams, heated steering wheel, outlet on and off, and our rear tailgate release. And moving on to the door, we have 2 levels of memory seats, power mirrors, power locks, and power windows. Moving into the center, we do get our infotainment display. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, that's basically it. There's no crazy features or specs or anything that might say, wow, you need to check out this infotainment. It's fine. Again, I assume this will get the RAV4's updated infotainment system for the 27 or 28 model year. So if this infotainment does bother you, something new is probably on the horizon. But overall, it works well. It does have a backup camera as well as a 360 camera. So definitely nice features to have in a big SUV like this. Down below, we get physical climate controls. Now, I always say that this is a relatively big deal. However, this is an even bigger deal because, as you'll see throughout the rest of the video, it is very cold here in Chicago and it has snowed a lot. A lot of snow means that I'm often wearing gloves. And when I'm wearing winter gloves, touch screens don't work. And so getting in the car, turning on the heat is a breeze while I can let the car warm up. I brush it off. Obviously didn't do a good job today, but you know what I mean? It's just nice to have those options. And the Toyota engineers told me that they don't really have much interest in taking the physical buttons away from larger vehicles like this. Now they have taken physical climate controls away from the RAV4, so maybe that is in the Grand Highlander's future, but for now, physical buttons, absolutely love to see it, of course with dual zone climate. Down below we get a hazard switch as well as 2 climate control vents, and all the way off to the right in front of the passenger we do get a USB-C outlet. This was an absolute game changer on the road trip that I took because my girlfriend could have her tablet and phone plugged in while I was driving, and I still had my phone plugged in for navigation. Then we do get a USB-C in the center, not only for charging but also for the input of the radio. We have our camera view button as well as our power on and off button. You also get a wireless charger. Plenty of charging opportunities here for the Grand Highlander. And then we have some cup holders, so we will do a big freaking bottle test. There is this sort of holder up in front of the cup holders, and normally I wouldn't really consider this. However, when they debuted this vehicle, they actually showed a big friggin' bottle-like bottle in this area, so they obviously meant it to be that. So there you go. Off to the left, there is a shifter. Works well. It's the same shifter you'll find in pretty much every single Toyota product made. Easy to use. Love that. And then we do have our power parking brake, auto holding brake, traction control off, our drive modes for sport, eco, trail, and normal, and then EV mode as well as hill descent control off to the right. So a bunch of buttons here in the center, kind of a command center, if you will, but really, really nice to see. I don't anticipate you really touching this all that much. If you're going on an off-road trail, I guess you could put it into trail mode, but sport and eco mode, that's pretty much where you're gonna spend your time, if at all, down here. You do get an opening center console. I wish the opening was a little bit larger. This was a little bit annoying on our road trip. However, it worked well enough and does the job. And then the seats. The seats are heated, power, memory, and ventilated, so you have some nice features here in the Grand Highlander, especially up at this $60,000 price point. I would expect at least a little something. But they're doing the job, and again, I spent countless hours in one of these, and it never really hurt. So that's a very, very good feeling. However, with that being said, we have 2 more rows of seating, so let's get on to some backseat reviews. All right, getting in the back of the Grand Highlander, I apologize. That ain't coming off, just so you know. I don't want to put a broom up there and scratch anything, so apologize that in the video there's a mound of snow on the top. Anyway, coming into the back here, freshly vacuumed floor mats. And on a day like today, absolutely love that we do get some heated seat options. We get our own climate options. We can turn it off and auto and temperature and fan speed, all of those goodies. We do get 2 USB-Cs as well as our wall outlets. So this wall outlet back here is what we can control with the button off to the left of the steering wheel that we were talking about earlier. We do get our own cup holders that do pass the big freaking bottle test as well. Love to see that. We do get a moonroof, but as you can see, the snow is on top of it. Does anyone make a heated moonroof? It'd kind of be interesting. I guess I could, because this section does open up. I could try to open it, but I don't want it to rain snow on me or break the motor. So we're not gonna do that today. We do have lights up here. We have our own venting up here. And of course, grab handles. Nice to see that. I do like the material. Material feels nice. It's leather, but it's not any sort of special leather. And we do get sunshades that you could pull up. So lots to love. Knee room good, headroom good. I'm 5'11", not a small guy. I fit back here really, really well. Very, very comfortable. You know, you're gonna be able to fit at least 4 people in here very well. However, spoiler alert, because I've been in the back of these before, you're gonna be able to fit 6 people in here really comfortably. And that's kind of the big draw for the Grand Highlander, which is absolutely awesome. So speaking of which, let's hop into the back. But now that I do these backseat reviews handheld for 2026, I'm gonna show you how to do it. Oh, something also funny is that it does say bottles, no open cups here, because I guess they could fall over easily. Kind of funny that Toyota does that. Okay, so there's a little 1 here, so we're gonna hit that, and that not only pushes it forward, but tilts it, and then that's basically your driveway to get in. And now here we are in the third row of the Toyota Grand Highlander. Now I can bring this back, snap it back into place, and as you can see, my knees are now hitting the seat in front of me. However, I'm a big guy. That's gonna happen. I am a full-size adult, and so this isn't really meant for me. Kids back here are gonna have their own world. Not only that, they have their own USB-C charger. We get giant cubbies and cup holders. We get our own window. We get our own vents. Not always a thing in third rows. We get our own light. We have another USB-C, another big cubby, and more lights and venting. A lot of times they'll do a USB-C on one side or the other. Toyota spent the extra 31 cents to put one on both sides. I like that little attention to detail. You could see here how much space is in between the seats. It's gonna be fine. Do I personally want to ride back here forever and ever and ever? No, of course not. But bigger families, you're gonna be able to make that happen. And you can option Grand Highlanders with a second row bench, so that will fill in the middle and get an 8th seat, because this actually technically is a middle seat back here with its own little headrest, but I wouldn't recommend trying to sit back here. So very, very cool, very nice, and this is the back of the Grand Highlander. This gets a big thumbs up, and this was what Toyota told me their goal was with the Grand Highlander, because they had the Highlander, they have other 3-row SUVs, but they really want to maximize this third row and make it usable for adults and kids, and I think they did that really well. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Grand Highlander, button underneath the Toyota logo for the power tailgate. And once we are back here, a couple of things to note. First of all, we do have our speaker for the JBL sound system. We also do have a wall outlet. Again, on vacation, this was absolutely a game changer and super nice to have. No 12-volt outlet, but honestly, I would rather have the wall outlet anyway. Nice Grand Highlander carpeting that you can kind of peel up here, pull up, and you do get a little bit of storage. Now, I would have liked to have seen more storage under here just because this isn't the Hybrid Max, so it does have a smaller battery on board, so I feel like they could have maximized it a little bit, but I also understand not redesigning a chassis just so it has, 3 inches more of storage space. Not too much to see beyond that. We can flip this down. Well, first of all, you can recline these back seats. So if you're sitting back here and you don't have much back here, you can recline them as well, which is very, very nice. But when you put the middle headrest down, push here, goes down, push here. There you go, goes down, and there you go. Now you have tons and tons of space. Way more space than you'll probably ever really need, but I would like to have more space than I need than less. So grab the strap here, pull it back up. This is a little bit harder for people with bad backs or low strength individuals. So there are 3-row vehicles that do offer power seats. These are physical, so something to think about. Come up here, we can close it or close it and lock it, but the vehicle's running, so we'll just close it here today. Nice, smooth, calm, and collected from Toyota, which is to be expected. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I could take or leave the Grand Highlander. Pretty much all of them that I've reviewed have looked basically the same. It's fine, style isn't really Toyota's mainstay. They leave that a little bit more to Lexus, but even Lexuses are understated. And I like that. If you bring this home, your neighbors might not come over and start asking what it is, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can fly pretty under the radar here in the Grand Highlander, and I think that's actually one of its strengths rather than one of its pitfalls. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving another Toyota Grand Highlander here on the channel, but the 2026 Nightshade? Why do I say that this is the vehicle that I would choose? Well, before we get on to that, I do really love the Grand Highlander. I think it does a lot of things really well. It's efficient, it's spacious, it has good enough tech and features. It's easy to drive. You don't need a PhD or MD or DO to drive this thing or pilot it. I would feel comfortable giving this to someone who just turned 16. If they had to drive it, I think I would probably give them some extra pointers because it is larger than your average vehicle, but I don't think the operation of it is too hard. And that's a really good spot to be in for Toyota, and Toyota's kind of always lived in that spot, which is very, very nice. It rides nice, drives well, it's efficient, and that's my biggest thing. I personally, if I were to buy one, I would buy the non-Hybrid Max over the Hybrid Max. Couple reasons for that, but 2 main ones. The first one is the price. you're going to be able to find vehicles with this engine setup for more affordable prices than the Hybrid Max. I'll have to dig out that screenshot. You're seeing it here now, what it was. This is 60, nearly 60 flat. So you're going to save some money, and everyone wants to save money. I know $60,000 is still a very large number to spend on anything, but in a day and age where gas is over $4 and eggs are $7, $8, $9, the average grocery run is well into the $200, $300. 60 grand is just what three-row SUVs are priced at. This is still 13 grand cheaper than the Toyota Supra. So you're gonna save some money with this. The second reason is that efficiency. I don't wanna say appalled by the efficiency of the Hybrid Max, but on our road trip, we averaged maybe 20 miles to the gallon. But if we went stargazing one night through the moonroof, then it dropped below 20 miles to the gallon average on our road trip with the Hybrid Max. This averages 32, 33, 34. This is going to be a wickedly more efficient vehicle, and that's just something that I would want more of every single day. What would you use every single day? Would you use the 300 plus horsepower and floor it everywhere you go and use that extra passing power? Or are you going to use the efficiency every day? I would bet you 9 out of 10 times you're going to be using that efficiency every single day, because you might not be flooring it to band practice. You might not be flooring it to work or school or what have you, but you are going to be driving to all those places, and you're going to need to be efficient to all those places. And so this is just a lot more attractive in terms of numbers. Your wallet, your paycheck, your pocketbook, your whatever outdated means of holding money, your Apple Wallet, your tap to pay is going to thank you, because you're going to spend less time at the pump. And that was the other reason I didn't like the Hybrid Max as much, is because these don't get very big gas tanks. I believe it's around 12.5 to like 13-ish gallons, which on a big long road trip in the Hybrid Max, I was filling up at least once a day, oftentimes twice a day. So this is going to stretch that smaller gas tank even more. And that's why I would pick one of these. It's a smarter decision, and when buying a Grand Highlander, you're trying to make the best decision you can, and I think the non-Hybrid Max is the way to go. Now, the Nightshade just kind of tosses some darker painted exterior bits on it. I could take or leave the actual Nightshade part, but I would take the non-Max Hybrid. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Toyota for loaning me this Grand Highlander for the last week. Huge thank you to Drive Shop for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle, and of course, the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.